All you are doing is
borrowing some victim narrative from the Middle East and trying to Americanize it.
Here's why. Your brain automatically translates everything through a Western lens. You force their choices into boxes you already know. But what if, when a Middle Eastern leader says justice, what they mean and what you hear in your mind are totally different things? Translating words isn't enough. Watching commentary isn't enough. Stick with me and you'll walk away with a new tool to decode these situations and form your own independent opinions. Here's where the lens difference becomes impossible to ignore. Watch this. A Hamas spokesman is interviewed on Lebanese TV. The whole interview is in Arabic for an Arab audience. He's fluent, natural, speaking their language. Then he wants to justify the October 7th attacks. And in that exact moment, he switches to English. He says one word, justified. Not the Arabic word for it, English.
هي إسرائيل مش إحنا ضحية الاحتلال نقطة وآخر السطر. لذلك ما حدا يلومنا إحنا شو اللي بنعمله. في 7 أكتوبر، في 10 أكتوبر، في مليون أكتوبر، إحنا اللي بنعمله مبرر. It is justified, مبررة.
That tiny switch? It's not an accident. He did it because he knows that if he used the Arabic word for justice, he would get a completely different meaning. And although he was speaking to an Arab audience, he wanted the Western interpretation of it. So he switched to English. That tiny word is a rabbit hole for a whole understanding of why Western people cannot understand the Middle East. Now let's see what is considered a justified war for a Western mindset.
Just war theory as a doctrine, it comes out of Catholic moral theology in the Middle Ages. Among us, we hang on issues of aggression. It's right to resist an attack. Just as you could resist on a city street if you were mugged, you could fight back, and that would be a miniature version of a just war. And it's also just to come to the aid of the victim of aggression, as you might do on a city street if you were brave enough. And that would be a just war.
So, here's the Western rule. War is only justified to stop aggression or suffering. Now watch what happens when a government wants to wage war but has no real justification. They fake one, and it has to sound noble. Enter the Bush administration.
In the year leading up to the invasion, President George W. Bush and members of his administration seemed to be making a case to the American public and Congress that the US should go to war against Iraq. And I could see that Bush and his team were at least outwardly engaging with something called just war theory.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
President Bush summarized the justification in a very noble way, but we all know now that it was a lie. Still, even from a lie, we can learn what the West considers a justified war, a noble cause, a way to prevent suffering. Now, let's look at the other side. What does justice mean in the Muslim world? What counts as justified? The Arabic word for justice is adl, and it means something completely different. Now, let's observe this beautiful explanation of justice by Imam Osman Irshad. See if you can spot the differences.
And I have come to believe that most of our pain comes from imbalance. That is my topic today, inside us and outside us. Think of a family you know, where one person is silently carrying everything. They work long hours, they care for children or elders, they manage a household, they absorb everyone's emotions. On the outside, the family looks beautiful, everything is good. But on the inside, there's quiet exhaustion. The balance is off. One heart is overloaded, while the others don't even realize it. Quran says, وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ. The Quran says, Almighty God created and raised the sky, and He has set the balance, that you may not transgress in the balance. This is the first concept, Mizan. God raised the heavens, set the cosmic balance, and came the instruction, do not violate it. Because violation causes corruption and destruction in the heavens and earth. When that happens, we need to establish al-adl, justice, to restore that balance. Justice is not a political slogan, but a spiritual obligation, something you owe to every human being. Justice is what we do. Balance is what we restore when we do justice. Can we build communities where peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice? Because peace without justice is often only silence imposed by power.
Peace without justice is only silence enforced by power. Sit with those words for a moment, because they are in complete contrast to Western values. While the West sees justice as a way to prevent suffering, Islam sees a place that has no suffering but lacks the virtue of justice as a wicked place. But how can we know what the correct balance is? Now we get to a concept that is completely alien to the West. We are not to trust our own moral perspective, but to rely completely on divine law, the Sharia.
So what is the Sharia? What does it mean? Sharia in Arabic literally means a flowing spring or a watering hole. Technically, Sharia is a body of law that governs not only religious rituals, but also aspects of everyday life in Islam. It's the idea of God's law which aims to protect the faith.
So, we have the theory. Now let's put it to the test. Let's look at a scenario that a Western mind has zero chance of truly understanding. It's a brutal reality. Many prominent Middle Eastern sheikhs refuse to condemn militant attacks inside Israel, even when civilians die, but shift the geography to Europe and the reaction completely flips. In January 2015, 2 gunmen stormed the Paris headquarters of Charlie Hebdo to avenge the honour of the Prophet Muhammad after it published offensive cartoons.
Put him on the cover in 2011 with the title 100 Lashes If You Don't Die of Laughter. That year, the magazine's headquarters were firebombed at night. On January 7th, at least 12 journalists and illustrators were shot in Charlie Hebdo's offices.
To justify the massacre, radicals pointed to a famous warning left by Osama bin Laden: if there is no check on the freedom of your words, let your hearts be open to the freedom of our actions. We now can understand their logic. The attack is a necessary rebalancing of the cosmic order that got broken. But here is the twist. Most mainstream Islamic scholars and major sheikhs, from Al-Azhar University, the International Union of Muslim Scholars, the Grand Mufti of Egypt, and prominent individuals like Dr. Tariq Ramadan and Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, utterly condemned the Paris attack. So, my very intellectual Western viewer, pause for a moment and think. Define in your mind what is the reason the terror in Paris is condemned by the leaders of Islam, but the terror against Israel is not. Let's see how many of you got the correct answer. While you're doing this, you can share your guess in a comment or even smash the like button. Let's review Judith Butler's typical Western answer for the situation.
I think it is more honest and historically correct to say that the uprising of October 7th was an act of armed resistance. It is not a terrorist attack. I did not like that attack. It was, for me, anguishing. The violence done to Palestinians has been happening for decades. This was an uprising that comes from a state of subjugation and against a violent state apparatus.
Here's what her argument means in plain terms. Using our definition, terror against Israel is justified as a calculated trade-off. We may feel bad about Israeli suffering, but it's presented as necessary, a justified attack to prevent greater Palestinian suffering. According to this Western mindset, an attack like Charlie Hebdo cannot have any justification. A joke, no matter how offensive, is not a measure of suffering. After all this build-up, you can probably guess that this secular reasoning has nothing to do with why the great sheikhs actually condemned the Paris attack. They weren't defending the Western concept of free speech. Listen to Sheikh Asim al-Hakim's simple explanation of why the Charlie Hebdo attack was wrong under Islamic law.
And what should we do when someone insults the Prophet ﷺ? This depends. If you are in a Muslim country, this is a major offense. It is the duty of the Muslim ruler to execute. And this is done in Muslim countries. The honor of the Prophet ﷺ is way more important than anything else. If you are not in a Muslim country, in this case, you have nothing to do but to leave. So you have to leave this place and boycott that person and warn others from him.
What Sheikh Asim al-Hakim just explained is that Sharia law treats actions differently depending on the category of land involved. Strict Islamic rules apply on Muslim territory, Dar al-Islam, but a Muslim living in a non-Muslim country like France resides in Dar al-Ahd, land of covenant. There, he enters into a binding aman, a sacred oath of security tied to his visa or citizenship. This is a contract of non-aggression. Attacking targets in that country, even for a cause he believes is just, breaks that oath and is considered a great sin in Sharia. Now contrast that with Israel. In classical Sharia, once a land is ruled by Islam, its status permanently changes. It becomes part of Dar al-Islam. It can never be legitimately ceded by a political treaty. If that land is now ruled by non-Muslims, as in Israel from this perspective, it is considered occupied Muslim territory, and many scholars, including mainstream ones, hold that liberating it is a duty. Therefore, according to this reasoning, the difference between the condemnation of Charlie Hebdo and the attacks on Israel lies not in the actions that were made, but in the piece of land where they occur. If that newspaper headquarters were located in Tel Aviv, attacking it would not be a sin. Under this logic, it could be a duty. That is the real reason the sheikhs condemned Paris, but not the terror against Israel, not the suffering, not the victims, real estate. Now that we're smarter, let's play a pretend game. Let's try to bring peace to the Middle East. There are two justifications for the endless attacks from Gaza. One is the Western perspective, removal of the oppressor, liberation. The other is the Islamic theological duty. The land cannot be ruled by non-Muslims, no matter how they behave. This is spelled out clearly in Hamas's original 1988 charter. It declares that the land of Palestine is an Islamic waqf consecrated for future Muslim generations until Judgment Day, and that it or any part of it should not be squandered. The charter further states there is no solution for the Palestinian question except through jihad, and makes jihad an individual duty of every Muslim once any part of this land is ruled by non-Muslims. Let's imagine something. Imagine Israel drops its weapons. Imagine it gives Muslims all the love it can give. That would remove the Western reason for aggression, but the theological duty, it would still be there. It holds no connection to Israeli actions. So here's the question. Would that lower the aggression and suffering? Or would it do the exact opposite, incentivizing an escalation because the terrain is now easier to reclaim? Think about that. Now, how can we bring peace? We have to shake off our Western structure, throw it away just for this moment. Peace will come only when the great sheikhs and scholars change the legal status of that land. Only when it stops being Dar al-Islam will it stop being the land of the sword. Then non-Muslims could live there and even govern themselves. But wait, a sharp viewer might ask, can they really change the status of a land? The answer is yes, because they already did it with Spain. Spain was once called Al-Andalus, ruled by Islam for centuries, and today, mainstream scholars have reclassified it. It is no longer treated as Dar al-Islam. The land's status was eventually changed through historical developments and later scholarly acceptance. If it happened there, it can happen here. And that reveals the only true path forward. The international community must establish, clearly, permanently and without hesitation, that the state of Israel is an unalterable geopolitical fact. Once the reality on the ground becomes an absolute, unchanging baseline, it forces the legal framework to adapt to survive, just as it did in Europe. All of this suffering, all of this mess, it all breaks down to a definition of the land. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. May we all find a path to peace.